Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to NoDQ video here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift_NoDQ. Let's get right to your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift. And as a reminder, the hashtag is NoDQ video from this point forward. So keep that in mind. First question today comes from It's the Costanza, who has not gotten the memo yet. Hashtag NoDQ video. Do you think WWE is doing the right thing by giving us the reality of the McMahons running the show on TV like they do behind the scenes? Not many of us do, and it's like 1999 corporation storyline. I honestly feel that it's insulting the fans' intelligence. I think that pretty much the majority of WWE fans know all along that in reality, the McMahon family is running the show. So now this storyline that the way we're going to turn things around, we're going to have the McMahon family running Raw and SmackDown. Okay. We already know the McMahon family has been running the show. We already know Vince is the boss. The buck stops with Vince. Vince still appears even during this brand extension era. We know Vince is in charge. He appointed Shane and Stephanie as the commissioners of Raw and SmackDown, and then Shane and Stephanie appointed their general manager. So already in storyline, the McMahons have been in charge. So the idea that all of a sudden things are different now because the McMahons before were not really using their power, it's just not believable. So yeah, to me, it's very weak. And that's why I'm not personally getting my hopes up that WWE is going to turn things around. I thought it was a very lackluster effort this past Monday to try and get fans convinced that there is a turnaround that is coming soon. I just don't buy it at this point. This one comes from Oscar, Offman Rules. When ratings drop for Raw, Vince McMahon feels the need to show up. He rarely, if ever, does this for SmackDown. Is this more proof that Raw is the A show and SmackDown is the red-headed stepchild? And will SmackDown's ratings matter to Vince once on Fox? Well, I think it's obvious for a number of reasons why Raw is the A show, and Vince does appear on SmackDown. He was on this week's SmackDown Live. So it wasn't just Raw where Vince appeared. And Vince did appear, remember this, Vince did appear when that Kevin Owens angle with Shane was going down. Vince will appear on SmackDown every now and then, but let's just face it, SmackDown is the B show, and it probably always will be the B show, even on Fox. Now, will WWE put more of an emphasis on SmackDown? Perhaps. I would hope so. I would think that logically WWE would, because Fox is going to have certain expectations. They are paying WWE some very big bucks for the rights to air SmackDown. So I would think if I was the Fox network, I would want the biggest numbers possible. I would want 3 million viewers for SmackDown, not 2 million. We'll have to wait and see what WWE does if they make SmackDown more of an equal brand to Raw. Only time will tell. I think the jury's still out on that one, so we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you for the question, Offman Rules. And you are somewhere here on the NoDQ Galaxy shirt, which you can pick up over at NoDQ.com/shirts. Got this one here from B. Hill. Hey Aaron, wouldn't you think it would be better to surprise the WWE Universe with the new superstars? Or are the McMahons so desperate for ratings they need to let their audience know when something exciting is going to happen? I have mixed feelings on it. On one hand, I like the idea of doing vignettes to hype up superstars coming to Raw and SmackDown, especially new talent. And sometimes I think it's also good to hype up the return of an injured star, show them rehabbing, show them getting back into shape, and just building the anticipation for their return. So I think it's good to have a balance of both. Sometimes you do the surprise, sometimes you do the vignettes. I think it just depends on the character. I do like announcing in advance more often the new characters, just because you can introduce the casual audience to these characters and establish those characters. I think back to like the 80s with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, all those skits to establish him as the $1 Million Man. Those were fantastic. And then in the 90s with Val Venus is Coming, all those different promos with him and Jenna Jameson. I like those. And I think they're definitely useful for some of the characters. But I also like surprises and seeing new characters debut out of nowhere. And I also like seeing old faces return out of nowhere as a surprise, just to create more of that unpredictable environment where you never know. You could tune in Raw and you never know who might show up. I miss that feeling personally, and that's all the more reason why one of the things I would do, people ask me, like, what would I do if I was running WWE? Here's one thing I would do. I would bring back legends more often, not as full-time performers, but every now and then have a random legend show up. Like, I thought it was really cool when the Headbangers returned. I wasn't a fan of them having new music, but I thought it was really cool when they came back and had that brief little run. I want to see more stuff like that. Maybe bring back somebody like Ken Shamrock one time for a one-off appearance or something like that. Do that with various legends and past superstars. You know, bring back The Godfather, but maybe bring back some new people. You know, I'm tired of Duggan and Slaughter and DiBiase, but maybe some other legends that we haven't seen in a long time. Have them appear every now and then. WWE used to do it. I remember Randy Orton and Jake the Snake Roberts had a segment like 2005-ish. And that was really cool. I miss those types of segments with the legends. And I'd like to see more of them. Just to give Raw a little bit more of an unpredictable feel. Like if you miss the show, you might miss something interesting. Got this one here from I've Got Kids 33. Of all the new call-ups, which superstars have the brightest futures and who will job out right away? Well, I did discuss this on the NoDQ review with everyone. I think EC3 and Lars Sullivan of this current crop, I feel like they have the most potential to go far. EC3 has the sports entertainment look, and Lars Sullivan has that old school monster look that Vince loves, going back to the 1970s and 80s. Lars Sullivan, very much a throwback to that generation. So I think those two are going to get the eyes seen by Vince. Vince is going to look at these guys and see them as moneymakers. Those would be my picks. War Machine, I feel like the booking is going to make or break them. Lacey Evans, same thing. I just feel like it's going to be tough for all of them, quite frankly, just because there's so many talents and so few spots on television at this point. But I think EC3 and Lars will have the best opportunities. Got this one here from Chris. Hey Aaron, what do you think of this idea to have EC3 debut at the Royal Rumble and win it leading up to WrestleMania 35? Have both Raw and SmackDown fight for his rights along the lines of what they did to Batista in 05. Could this make EC3 a big deal right at the start? I mean, on paper, it's a good idea. I look back at The Shield and how strongly WWE booked The Shield right off the bat. So I do think it is important to book a new superstar very strongly right out of the gate if you really want them to be a major superstar. That's the question. So does WWE want EC3 to be a headliner? If the answer is yes, then I would make an argument for that. You push him right out of the gate. You give him this monster push and make him as big of a deal as possible. Because first impressions can really go far. Look at Chris Jericho. Jericho came in his first night. He was booked like a superstar, and the fans took to him as a superstar right out of the gate. So if you do the same with EC3, you treat him like a big deal, then the fans will see him as a big deal. So yeah, I think it is important to do that if, in fact, WWE wants to make something out of EC3. And does he have the potential? That remains to be seen. I mean, he definitely has the look. He can talk. So he's got those things working for him. And we'll have to see if WWE can capitalize on him and get the most out of him. Got this one here from Mr. Yuck. Your thoughts on the cruiserweights meshing with the main roster stars more recently? Who doesn't love Lucha House Party? And what might the future hold for 205 Live and its championship? I'm going to hope that that Lucha House Party question was sarcasm. I'm not detecting sarcasm, but maybe you were being sarcastic. I hope you were, because they are like the most cringeworthy act in WWE right now, other than Nia Jax. I like it because I feel like the cruiserweights are going nowhere right now. It was good when they got some TV time on Raw, but they're not even getting that anymore. So for guys like Mustafa Ali and Leo Rush and Drake Maverick, for these guys to actually get on the main shows, that's good for them because they're getting more exposure, they're becoming bigger stars, and it's just allowing them to be able to do what they do in front of a larger audience. It's not looking good for 205 Live, quite frankly, just because it feels like they have no momentum. They can have great matches and nobody cares. And that's the problem with just too much content when there's already 5 hours of television between Raw and SmackDown. People get burned out and people do have lives. People have other things they want to do with their time besides watch wrestling 24/7. So then you ask people to watch 205 and then NXT, and unless you're somebody who just, your life is wrestling 24/7, you have to pick and choose what you're going to watch. So for the 205 Live guys, you know, at least when they had the Raw exposure, that would lead some Raw viewers to maybe say, hey, let me check out 205 Live and see what these guys are all about. Now there's not even that, so it's like, why even bother? Got this one here from the anime fans. Do you believe Nexus and every heel faction after them, main roster only, the WWE, have a problem with dedication? Well, look at the Shield. I just mentioned the Shield a few minutes ago, and I feel like the Shield was a perfect example of WWE getting it right. They screwed up with Nexus. Nexus was botched with the booking, but the Shield, they were pushed like top guys right from the get-go. They had an undefeated streak. They were dominating, and they got over because they were booked like top stars. So I would say the Shield was the last great example. We really haven't seen something like that since. Will WWE get it right with the Undisputed Era? That remains to be seen. But if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You have to push them strongly and give them credibility right out of the gate. Otherwise, fans are just going to see them as mid-card guys like everybody else that don't really matter. And then you're just wasting the talent. Why even invest in them if you're not going to go all the way? Especially if you feel that these guys are really talented and they can be top stars. You got to take the chance and you got to go with them. That's what WWE did with the Shield, and they made stars out of all 3 Shield members. Got this one here from Future Shocker. Before retiring, Daniel Bryan was one of, if not the hottest thing in WWE with the Yes Movement. It seems like since being back, though, he's just not as hot and just another talent. Do you agree? And if so, how should WWE fix this? Well, up until the heel turn, I would agree with you completely. I think like his return, his comeback after the initial WrestleMania match, it felt off. Like he just didn't really feel as big of a deal as he used to be. The matches weren't as great, and he just felt like another guy. But ever since the heel turn, I feel like Bryan has a new lease of life in WWE. He's really taken the ball and running with it, doing this character, basically taking his real-life personality and just healing it up, turning up the volume, and it's working great so far. So right now, I would say Daniel Bryan is quickly becoming the hottest thing in WWE once again because he is capitalizing on this new heel, save the world type of gimmick. This next one comes from Samish. Hey Aaron, do you think WWE was right with pushing Roman Reigns as it is quite visible with the downfall of the rating that they are missing a marquee superstar to revolve around? I think WWE was fine with pushing Reigns. I think the problem was how they did it. I think we're all in agreement that Roman Reigns looks the part. He looks like a larger-than-life superstar. He looks like a superhero. And his wrestling skills, he's very talented. Nobody is denying that, at least people that are rational. Roman Reigns can go. he got good matches out of the Big Show. He got good matches out of all sorts of different people. Braun Strowman, every big guy that Reigns was against, he managed to get solid matches out of them. The Brock Lesnar matches this year were not particularly good, but I think that was just the fact that WWE was getting cold feet with doing what they wanted to do all along, which was have Roman beat Brock Lesnar. But they didn't do it for whatever reason. They held off on it, and it just left a bad taste in everyone's mouths and fell flat. The problem is that WWE, instead of letting Reigns get over organically, they forced him down people's throats, and people saw right through it. Again, insulting the intelligence of the audience, and that's why I think that the Roman push backfired for a lot of people. However, one could argue Reigns got those polarizing reactions, and because of that, people had more investment in him emotionally than anybody else in WWE, and you could argue that that worked, but I guess that's either positive or negative, depending on how you look at it. Some might argue, well, yeah, Reigns does get the big reactions, but at the same time, because he was shoved down people's throats, you know, he's only going to have so much success, and it's not like he's going to have Steve Austin or The Rock level success because he's a guy that's not being pushed organically. So there's different ways to look at it. But as far as Roman Reigns goes, you know, I totally understand WWE for wanting to push him, you know. I would have done the same thing, just not the same way WWE did it. I would have let it evolve slower, organically, and not force it, not try to make him the new John Cena, basically. All right, that will wrap things up for this edition of NoDQ Video. If you enjoyed this video, please tell a friend. Spread the word about NoDQ.com. Word of mouth really goes a long way. So do whatever you can to let people know about the channel, the website. It's very much appreciated. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com, of course, for the very latest WWE news and rumors. I will see you guys next time.